When I first saw the ASUS ROG Flow Z13, I felt that familiar tug between excitement and caution. A 13-inch laptop that can flip into a tablet, brand new 12th Gen Intel inside, a 120Hz screen and a detachable RGB keyboard. On paper it sounds like the ultimate all-rounder for someone who wants to game, edit video, and still carry something that fits in a backpack. But the real question is whether that promise translates into day-to-day value, or whether you end up paying a premium for a device that's great in theory but awkward in practice. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, so keep that in mind while we walk through the actual use cases that matter most. First off, let's talk about the core dilemma most buyers face. Do you need a full-size gaming laptop, a portable ultrabook, or something in between? The Flow Z13 sits squarely in that in-between space, and there are 3 scenarios where it truly shines. If you're a content creator who also streams indie titles on the side, the 16GB of LPDDR5 RAM paired with the i5-12500H gives you enough headroom to edit 1080p footage while the system is still responsive enough for a quick game of Fortnite during a break. I ran a quick timeline export in DaVinci Resolve and the render time was almost identical to a 15-inch laptop with a similar CPU, which tells me that the compact design isn't sacrificing raw processing power. Second, the convertible form factor matters when you're on the move. I took the Z13 onto a coffee shop, flipped it into tablet mode, and used the 13.4-inch 120Hz IPS display to sketch out a UI mockup with my stylus. The 16:10 aspect ratio actually feels more natural for vertical scrolling than the typical 16:9 laptops I've used before, and the 120Hz refresh makes those slow-moving animations feel buttery smooth. For gamers, that means a more immersive experience in fast-paced shooters, though you'll quickly notice the limited size if you're used to a 15-inch screen. Third, portability is the real selling point here, but it comes with trade-offs you need to weigh. The battery life on paper is listed as up to 8 hours, but under a real gaming load, say, an hour of Apex Legends at medium settings, the Z13 drops to roughly 2.5 hours before the fan ramps up and the screen dims to preserve charge. If you plan to game on a train or in a CAF without a power outlet, you'll want an external battery or accept that you'll be tethered to a wall socket for longer sessions. Heat and fan noise are often where these ultra-compact gaming laptops stumble, so I paid close attention to ASUS's ROG intelligent cooling claim. The system uses a dual fan design with a vapor chamber spread across the motherboard. In practice, the fans remain relatively quiet when you're doing office work or browsing the web, just a gentle hum that blends into background noise. However, during intense gaming or CPU-heavy rendering, the fans climb to a higher pitch, and you'll feel a noticeable thrum under your palm. It's not a deal-breaker, but it's something to consider if you work in a silent environment or share a desk with others. Now, let's address the detachable keyboard. The RG backlit keys are nicely spaced and give the feel of a full-size laptop despite the 13-inch chassis. The key travel is short but responsive, and the dedicated macro keys can be programmed for game shortcuts, an advantage if you're playing titles that rely on complex input combos. The downside is that the keyboard connects via a magnetic latch, so you'll need to be a bit careful when you attach or detach it. The latch can be somewhat finicky if you're in a hurry. Moreover, the keyboard adds a modest amount of weight, pushing the total device to just under 2.5 kilograms, which is still manageable but less ultralight than some pure tablets. One of the most compelling features ASUS touts is XG Mobile support. The Flow Z13 can pair with the XG Mobile eGPU, turning the compact laptop into a desktop-class beast when you're at home. In my own test, connecting the eGPU boosted frame rates in Cyberpunk 2077 from a choppy 30 frames per second to a smooth 60 frames per second at 1080p, effectively bridging the gap between a portable device and a full-size gaming rig. The catch is that the eGPU is a separate purchase priced in the high hundreds, and you'll need a compatible docking station to make the most of it. If you're already planning a stationary gaming setup, you might be better off investing directly in a traditional laptop with a more robust GPU. Pricing is where the decision matrix tightens. The Z13 space configuration i5-12500H, 16GB RAM, 512GB SSD lands in the mid-$1,500 range, which puts it on par with larger gaming laptops that have dedicated GPUs. For someone who values the tablet conversion and the ability to later add an eGPU, the cost can be justified. But if you don't need the detachable form factor or you're not planning to pair it with XG Mobile, you could get a 15-inch laptop with a built-in RTX 3060 for a similar price, and you'd avoid the extra hassle of